Welcome back to the Den of Episodes. I'm Marlo Fox, and this is your cozy little corner of the internet. Grab your cup of coffee or tea, settle into your favorite comfy spot, and let's escape to the Highlands. Let's dive into Season 2, Episode 8. The episode opens with Hector and Archie going over the ceremony that will hand the Lairdship from him to Archie. Apparently there's going to be a clan gathering when this will take place. As they're doing this, a helicopter lands at Glenbogle, and with it the arrival of 3 Americans, Joe and Bonnie MacDonald and their son Angus. Katrina is back at her cottage, and Archie goes over there with a bottle of wine. He wants to ask her to cut the ribbon and say a few words to open the Glenbogle gift shop. She's immediately furious when she realizes he's there for that reason and not to talk personal matters, like how they feel about each other. As soon as Archie returns from the cottage, Lexi is in his face, wanting to know how it went. She tells Archie she wants to have a talk with him, and he says later that night. Before dinner, we see Molly searching for Hector outside. When she finds him, she wants to know what is wrong. She already knows, of course. It is that Hector is officially handing the reins of the estate over to Archie. He's been acting as Laird for 2 seasons now, but this will be the ceremony that officially marks the end of Hector's reign. It's a time in a person's life when they're reminded that they probably have more life behind them than ahead. And Molly basically, in her sweet way, tells him to get over it. At dinner, it doesn't take Joe MacDonald long to announce he is actually the rightful owner to Glenbogle. His wife tries to slow him down in this announcement, but he's unstoppable. Archie asks him for proof, and he says he hired a lawyer and has all the official paperwork. Everyone is shocked, and their mood toward these Americans turns sour, except for Hector. He continues to be unusually sweet and welcoming. We find out later that he has a plan up his sleeve. He lets the others in on the plan, so we know it's going to get good. The next day we see Angus, the son of Joe and Bonnie, up to no good. He's going through the trash and finds a fish carcass. He gets a devilish look on his face, and off he goes with the fish head and bones. Katrina drives up and hands a notice to Archie that she'll be leaving the cottage in a month. Nothing more is said, and she just drives off. In the village, Molly is showing Bonnie all that Glenbogle has to offer, which isn't much. There's the one shop, the gas station, and the funeral home. Oh, and the nearest grocery, which is an hour away. When Bonnie asks about where to buy clothes or makeup, Molly says it's 12 hours away. Hector's plan is definitely starting to take shape. Meanwhile, at Glenbogle, Hector is showing Joe around the estate. There are big cardboard signs posted everywhere saying things like "No entry, danger of electrocution," and "Beware, falling masonry." When Hector tells Joe it'll cost about £3 million to fix, Joe says that's within budget because when he sold his company, he made $110 million. Then Golly comes along looking like he's drunk, and Hector comments to Joe that he's his head man when he isn't on strike or drunk. Duncan picks up Molly and Bonnie in the village to drive them home. On the way, the 3 of them get wind of a terrible scent. So bad they have to pull over so Bonnie can throw up. While they're stopped, Duncan discovers the fish carcass has been placed under the hood, and the heat is really bringing out the aroma. When they get back to Glenbogle, Duncan goes straight upstairs and storms into Angus's room. He really lets him have it about the fish prank, to the point that Angus bursts into tears. Down by the lock, Hector is going on to Joe about what a terrible hole this place is and no future for Archie. Joe remarks on how beautiful Glenbogle is and tells Hector there's no way he can put him off this beautiful place. Archie goes back over to Katrina's, and she says it's too early for fond farewells since she isn't leaving for 4 weeks. Despite her sarcasm, he invites her over to Glenbogle for a drink later, as he really wants to talk to her. Back at the house, Archie finds his father talking to Kill Willie. Archie tells them that according to the Kilwilly lawyers, Joe MacDonald has a very strong case. To fight it, they would spend a fortune, which they don't have. Then out of the blue, Kilwilly says, "You could always try the chieftain's challenge." Oh boy, here we go. Hector's eyes light up as Archie asks what the chieftain's challenge is. Hector tells him it was the way of solving leadership disputes in the old days. That's all Archie needs to hear, and they take their plan to Joe. Joe tells them he has a terrific case. They tell him this could drag on in the court for years and cost millions, with only the lawyers being the winners. At this point, it seems Joe is coming around. They tell him that the chieftain challenge is a test of brain, brawn, and wisdom. And after a bit of convincing, Joe says he'll do it. Next, we see Molly and Bonnie taking a walk on a gorgeous part of the estate, where they have a memorial bench in memory of Jamie. At this point, Bonnie tells Molly she and Joe lost their eldest son a year ago to an overdose. He hadn't spoken to his father in years, and Joe blames himself. At this point, both women are in tears. Bonnie tells Molly she can't leave here, that her boy is here. Molly, through tears, tells her no, she can't, and they hug. At the house, Archie and Joe are busy studying for the chieftain challenge. Lexi comes in and asks Archie whether tonight is the night for their little tete-a-tete. This is a French expression that means a conversation between two people. Kilwilly comes in to get Archie, and he says next week's dinner menus will have to wait. That's not what Lexi wanted to talk about. Lexi is not happy. In their bedroom, Joe and Bonnie are having a heated conversation. She tells him how awful it is that they are taking this family's home. Joe says it's their destiny. He says he's doing it for their son Angus. Bonnie says Angus doesn't want it and he's miserable here. Cut to Angus's room where he's playing video games with Duncan and laughing his head off. On the stairs, Lexi is sitting and pouting when Katrina comes in looking for Archie. She says he invited her over for a chat. Lexi immediately flies off the handle and tells her that she has hurt Archie enough, and maybe while she was gone, Archie found a more reliable partner, referring to herself. Having been completely misled by this untruth, Katrina leaves confused. Next, we have Archie in the bathtub. Yes, I said bathtub. And he's singing. And he even looks like he is semi-playing with a toy boat. Come on. In walks Lexi, and Archie grabs a washcloth to cover himself. She declares how she feels about him. She says she wants to be with him and pressures him to give her an answer. Archie's very taken aback and very naked, so this isn't the best time for this. She tells him he had better answer quick as she removes the drain stopper. Archie quickly lists off the things that are wonderful about her, but ultimately he tells her that Katrina got to him first. Out on the moors are wide stretches of uncultivated land, we have Golly in his kilt playing the bagpipes. Then we have a beautiful, wide sweeping view of the countryside, and the music gets louder. It isn't just Golly playing. We see an entire troop of bagpipe players and drummers marching into the clan gathering. There's a gigantic banner that reads MacDonald Clan Gathering and Highland Games. Children in traditional Scottish clothing are dancing, and a pretty big crowd is gathered. It's quite a spectacle. Hector, as head of the clan, goes onto the stage and announces the opening of the games. The first test is stealing your neighbor's livestock, and it is Archie versus Joe. They have to run to a pen that holds a sheep and be the first one to cross the finish line carrying the sheep. Cue sheep. The race ends with Joe being the winner. In the next part of the challenge, they have to test their knowledge of the clan they want to lead. It is tied 4-all, and Archie wins with the last question. Lexi finds Archie and pulls him into the announcer's tent and sits him down by the microphone. She turns it on without him knowing so that everyone at the gathering can hear them talking. She asks him why he isn't with Katrina. He says something was always in the way and they can't seem to reach each other. We see Katrina outside listening intently. Lexi asks how he feels about Katrina, and he says he's nuts about her. Then Lexi tells him to do something about it. Archie leaves the tent in search of Katrina, and when he finds her and they're just about to talk, Hector comes and pulls him away. The third and final test for the lairdship is a sword that has been put into the ground, and on each side a different colored tassel is hanging from it. The first tassel that touches the ground, that side is the winner. This is brute force. Everyone in the crowd is shouting and urging them on. Archie gives a huge final effort while yelling at the top of his lungs and wins. The family rushes to congratulate him and Bonnie consoles her husband. Joe says he failed her and Angus and his deceased son. But Bonnie tells him they have to face up to what happened to their son and they're going to do it at home. They embrace and kiss. They obviously love each other very much. Duncan and Angus walk up eating ice cream, and Duncan tells Bonnie and Joe that Angus just called him Uncle Dunk, and he seems very happy with that. Next, on stage, we have Hector officially handing over the lairdship to Archie. It's a bittersweet moment for Hector's family, and also a very happy one with Archie taking over. Archie gives a very lovely speech and says that though at first he ran from his responsibility, now it feels right. He thanks those who have helped him and asks them on stage. Hector, Molly, Golly, Duncan, Lexi, and Katrina. Katrina's all smiles as she goes on stage and they kiss. A really nice kiss, but Katrina says, "Is that the best you can do?" Then he really lays it on her. Now, before I get into the next scene, I should tell you that Archie and Golly were in a scene earlier where they were underneath the bridge that is on Glenbogle property. It's the only access to the estate. However, it looks like it is falling apart and in dire need of repair. In a later scene, we even see a bolt fall out as a vehicle drives over the bridge. In the final scene of the episode, we see a huge bus carrying everyone back from the MacDonald clan gathering, and they're headed toward the bridge. I think you can see where this is going. There are gates and a big sign before going over it that says it's a weak bridge and to call a number if you're over a certain weight. The driver stops, but Hector demands that they continue on. He tells him that people have been going over that bridge for 140 years now and it isn't going to fall down. He gets off the bus and opens the gates, to many cheers from those on the bus. He gets back on the bus and tells the driver to proceed because he takes full responsibility. Over at the boathouse, which has been turned into a gift shop, we see Katrina doing the ribbon cutting for the opening. Archie is looking at her like a lovesick fool, and she tells him to stop. He says all his Christmases have come at once. Meanwhile, the guests from the bus come walking up, and according to the cloth tied around Hector's head from some sort of injury, the bus didn't make it. They take Archie to inspect the damage. Archie says they'll have to stay calm, and they will just have to ferry visitors across. No big deal, he says. And then Archie lets out the most enormous yell that can be heard across the countryside. Because yet again, he's faced with more Glenbogle frustration. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of Season 2. You may have noticed I didn't do the T rating for last week's episode. I'm not going to do it today either, because I realized it's ridiculous. I like this show, so I'll probably give every episode a 4 or 5 cup rating. So that is the end of that. For our Across the Pond translations, the first we have is Jimmy Wigs, and that was used earlier in the episode, but honestly, I do not remember where. And Jimmy Wigs is slang for crazy, as in he's gone Jimmy Wigs, spelled Jimmy, just like the name, and wigs, W-I-G-S. I'm going to add a word I forgot a couple of weeks ago, factotum, F-A-C-T-O-T-U-M. That was in the episode where Archie was assigning duties to everyone for the wedding they were going to host. He tells Duncan he will be the factotum, and that's basically a jack of all trades who does whatever is needed. I found a word, since there weren't that many this week, dreich, D-R-E-I-C-H, or maybe it's dreich, and that means cold, damp, gloomy, and unpleasant weather. And that sounds good to me, and I'm not being sarcastic. I love that weather. It's very cozy. And lastly, I have a Scottish phrase. It's a dinna ken, and it's 3 words, A-A-H, dinna, D-I-N-N-A-E, ken, K-E-N, a dinna ken, and it means I don't know. Thank you so much for joining me in the Fox Den for Season 2. So much happened, from Justine and Archie breaking up to Archie's 30th birthday. We met Lexi's mother, we welcomed baby Martha to the family, and Archie officially became Laird. I can't wait to see what Season 3 brings. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can write me at thedenofepisodes@yahoo.com. As always, I'm Marlo Fox, and until next time, keep the kettle on and the episodes rolling.